Good evening and welcome. I'm going to call the regular meeting of the Nevada City Council to order. Today is Wednesday, April 2nd? No, it's actually April 12th, 2023, and it is exactly 6:30 p.m. I will do the Nissan land rec. Lou, would you like to?
Oh, sure.
You're the representative
Okay,
in person today, so.
in absentia.
In attendance.
We acknowledge that the Nisenan people are still here among us today, though nearly invisible. We understand that we are on Nisenan land that was never ceded, and the original tribal families have yet to recover from the near genocide of their people. As a resident or visitor in Nisenan land, we support the Nevada City Rancheria Nisenan tribe in efforts to stabilize their people, as well as their campaign to register and restore federal recognition.
Thank you. Would you all join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, for liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, adoption of the agenda. Is this, anybody want to make any modifications, pull any items, comment?
Roll call, sorry.
Roll call. Madam Clerk, please. Can't read the green.
Councilmember Cece.
Sorry.
Here.
Councilmember Klein.
Here.
Councilmember Peterson.
Here.
Vice Mayor Fernandez is out. Mayor Fleming.
Here, yes, I'd like to announce that Vice Mayor Fernandez will not be with us today, and we will carry on in her stead. All right, now, adoption of the agenda. No modifications.
So I have a question. I just want to make a comment on a
Please do.
consent item. Will we take that up when we do consent?
Well, yeah, okay, we're going to adopt and then do
But I
consent.
don't want to pull it. I
Okay,
just want
all
to
right,
talk
great.
about it.
So then I'm looking for a motion to adopt the agenda as is with Gary's comment.
So moved.
I second.
Thank you. Do we, could voice vote, or we don't need to do anything on that, on the agenda?
All in favor.
Just all in favor? That's fine. Yeah, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. And no, I can't say that other part. All right, so that is carried. Presentations. Before we hear our first presentation today, I'd just like to share some sad news. I think a lot of you may know that Beryl P. Robinson Jr., who served as our city manager for 37 years upon his retirement in 2002, passed away this morning. He was, at the time, he was the longest serving city manager in the state of California until our lovely mayor's dad took that mantle. And what did he serve, 42 years as a city manager? Dean? 42. 42 years, which is incredible. So, and we made the comment that that doesn't happen as much anymore. I think I heard that you're lucky to see a city manager for 7 years. So it was a different time. And,
Every 2 years.
He was pretty well respected around town. And I guess we're in contact with his wife and son, and the city will do a more fitting honor as soon as we hear the specifics about his service. I'd ask the council to support my request that the city flags be flown in half-staff in his honor. Born in Mrs. Watson's Sanitarium in Nevada City, September 13th, 1935, Robinson left only to attend the University of California at Berkeley, where he received a bachelor's in business administration in 1957. Robinson returned home to run the family business, a Richfield gas station, which was leveled during construction of the Golden Center Freeway in the 60s. He was elected to the city council for a short stint before finding his career long calling when he was selected to be city manager on June 21 of 1965. He was a diligent protector of the city's history, responsible for protecting many buildings and delivering the city's historical district ordinance. His legacy revolves largely around the immense things he achieved on a very small budget, including the Commercial Street parking lot, the new South Pine Street Bridge, the Railroad Museum, the new firehouse on Providence Mine Road, and the renovation of City Hall. Wow, that's a lot. His successes were attributed to his love of his hometown, his can-do attitude, and his tenacity. He retired after 37 years as the city manager in 2002 as the longest serving. I just kind of said that. And at that time, Robinson's Plaza and this city council chambers were named for Beryl P. Robinson, Jr. I will ask that we close tonight's meeting in his honor, and if everyone could join me in a moment of silence now, that would be appropriate. Okay. End of a legacy, but his legacy lives on in this room and in the city and in all the things that he has done. So right now, we're going to switch to some presentations. We have the naming of the police department's newest officer, and I was hoping she would be here today, but
no
apparently
dog?
she's still in Kentucky. Chief Foss, would you come up and explain what is going on?
Hello, Mayor, members of council. So yeah, we're very excited to launch our canine naming program. So we have 5 names you'll be able to go to. We have any way to get to it actually through social media. So Instagram or Facebook is the easiest ways to get to it. There'll be a hyperlink there. And it'll take you directly to a SurveyMonkey survey where you could pick one of 5 names. And whoever wins is going to be the name of our canine. We're picking up the animal on the 25th of April. We'll actually bring it back here on the 27th of April. So we will have it, not for the next meeting, but the meeting after that. So you'll be able to meet our newest officer then. Some of the names on there, I'm really proud of some of them that are actually, I don't want to say who's winning, but I will say it's in the top 2, if that, so you could kind of figure it out on your own. I probably shouldn't show a preference.
No,
but,
you shouldn't.
Well, I'll just explain one that's, I don't want to mispronounce it, but it's Suki, which is borrowed from the Nisenan tribe, was given to us, and it means dog. I liked it because it could just be short for Sue, and it rolls off the tongue pretty good.
Suki.
And we have, right now, it is with, it's open to the public, and we just presented it to the schools yesterday. So we've gone to all the local schools, and the kids are now voting to see which name's going to win. I think we're up to over 200 votes already so far, so it's quite popular and doing really well. And the idea of it is just ownership for the whole community. This is something that, I've said it before, I'll say it again, I'm a very strong believer in, we're a steward of law enforcement here. This is not our dog, this is a community dog, and we're going to use it to make sure that it benefits everybody in the community. So part of that is, it's not our job necessarily to name it, it's everybody's job to name this dog. So
I love that.
yeah, we're looking forward to it being on the force. We have the vehicle purchased, which, well, a lot of the equipment is donated for the vehicle. It's on the agenda for tonight, and we're looking forward to getting that dog and handler into service. Does anybody have any questions?
What are the other names?
It's Ruby. Athena is what her name is now currently, and we kept that on there. So it's Ruby, Athena, Yuba, Gracie, and Suki.
You talked earlier about that it was just going to be local students voting. What made you decide to open it to the whole public?
You know, I liked the idea. I kind of tossed it around for both. Now, we have a lot of kids. To be honest, I didn't think we'd have as much public participation as we are having for it. First day, we had over 100 votes. So I wanted to put it out there to everybody to kind of get feedback across the board of what everybody thinks for it. And we have so many students, I really thought that would be, and I still believe that'll probably be the vast majority of our voters. But again, I think it's important that everybody gets kind of a say into it. And it was our first attempt at something like this, so I opened it up almost on a whim to see how it did, and it's actually really
You
kind of
didn't
grown its own
open it up
legs.
because it was trending away from your favorite.
And I'll continue to do that. I might open up.
I can
kinda
tell
like
which one
Gucci.
is going to win. Would anybody else like?
Yeah, how soon after the dog arrives will the vehicle be ready?
So they'll pretty much in tandem as far as when the dog's ready to go into service. The dog is in training right now and will come to us mostly trained. But then there's a long period, that's 7 weeks actually, where we have a trainer here locally with our handler and the dog that have to do a 7-week program where they get to know each other, their training methods, the methods for California, and then a little bit different standard. Because it's not an apprehension dog, there's not too much of a difference that we have to worry about, but we do want to make sure it's complying with all post standards for California. So there's a 7-week period there. During that time, the vehicle won't be ready It will be at the end of the 7 weeks, but during that time, the animals still will be coming with the officer to work every day. It'll probably be staying at the police department or in the vehicle, will not be exiting at calls, but we wanted to know the organization, the agency, the other officers, and it's going to be a staple of this organization for 8 to 10 years. So, yeah, we're trying to get the vehicle done as quickly as possible, but there will be some delay.
Okay, thanks.
Excellent.
So the dog has to memorize the org chart.
Yeah.
He knows where he fits in. All right, well, I think that's it, unless anybody else has any more questions.
I don't know, lower than mine, but maybe just 100.
You need a-
The military tradition, Chief, is that the dog always outranks the handler, correct?
Yeah.
Oh, really? That's
Maybe, I'm sorry.
interesting.
Depending on the name, how it sounds.
Well, thank you very much. I'm very excited to meet the dog. I think we all are. I can't wait to pet him. Thank you, Chief. All right, we have another wonderful presentation, the Grass Valley and Nevada City Cultural District redesignation and proclamation for Arts, Culture, and Creativity Month. And our dear friend Eliza Tudor is here to present. Would you join us? Are you coming up, or?
So if you're okay with it, Mayor, I will read the proclamation and then hand it over to Eliza to share that good news that we kind of pre-published in here, the redesignation of the cultural district. But the county and Grass Valley are taking similar actions. The county has actually already done a resolution proclaiming April every year as Arts, Culture, and Creativity Month. So we're a little bit behind on that, but this is our first year, so we'll take our whack at that. So with your permission, it's whereas arts are not only an impressive and important agent for economic development, but also impact societal issues that include health, corrections, housing, immigration, veterans, transportation, and education. And whereas it is imperative for all children and youth in the city of Nevada City and all of Nevada County to have access to arts education in their schools. And whereas California is the 5th largest economy in the world with a creative economy of approximately $650 billion with a B in 2020, according to the Otis report on creative economy. Whereas Nevada County's own creative sector, according to the Arts and Economic Prosperity Nevada County, a study by Americans for the Arts in 2019, which will be updated soon, generated $46.9 million in total economic activity in annual spending, supported by 869 full-time equivalent jobs, which generated $20.9 million in household income to local residents and delivered $5.1 million in local and state government revenue. And whereas the California Legislature adopted Senate Concurrent Resolution number 33 on April 25th, 2019, and the County of Nevada adopted a resolution each proclaiming April 2019 and every April thereafter as Arts, Culture, and Creativity Month. And whereas both in Nevada City and in Nevada County, the arts serve to give voice to our many communities, spark individual creativity, foster empathy and understanding, spur civic engagement, and serve as a continual source of personal enrichment, inspiration, and growth. And whereas the Nevada City's support for the arts education, and cultural institutions is crucial to achieve equitable access to the arts throughout Nevada County. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the City Council of the City of Nevada City hereby proclaims April 2023 as Arts, Culture, and Creativity Month in the City of Nevada City, a companion action to Nevada County and the City of Grass Valley actions, as a significant time to recognize and celebrate the arts, culture, and creativity of all peoples.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Sean. And Eliza, would you like to give it some context?
Yes, I love these proclamations because they just include literally everything, don't they? Thank you so much, council members. And really, this is a very symbolic moment because April, of course, is Arts, Culture, and Creativity Month across the whole of the state, as you just heard. But not only that, it's a very particular moment in the the state budget season. So this coming week, a week from today, I'll have just wrapped up spending a lot of time with legislators advocating for the arts and public funding for the arts in a way that we haven't experienced in this first 5 years of being named a California Cultural District. And just for those who are with us today who might appreciate a little background, we were designated as one of only 14 statewide California cultural districts under Assembly Bill 189 in 2017. But it's taken 5 years of solid advocacy to see that special honor be accompanied by funding. So hopefully you'll be seeing more of Nevada County Arts Council in the next 3 years at least, while we have some funding attached to it. We're going to be appointing a full-time program manager, and we'll be doing some serious cultural planning. I know you're going to love this, Doug.
I'm excited.
Yeah, and what cultural planning will imply is bringing us all together as communities, not just the arts, but the business sector, government departments, and just having fun with a strategy for our cultural district. So thanks so much for being such great partners and having faith in this designation. And here's to the next 5 years and the next 3 years of funding, by which time we hope to have made the funding permanently with good advocacy. So thank you all so much.
Thank you, Eliza. Gentlemen, anybody would like to comment on this? Go right ahead.
I just appreciate all the hard work you've been doing. I know it's unbelievable, the amounts, but as I've said before, my favorite export from Nevada County is our music. So thanks for your support there. And having spent both Saturday and Sunday at the Nevada Theater, our visual artists are doing an excellent job, as well as the inside of that building, I'll tell you.
And we have an incredible scene. But also it's remarkable that we now have 2 members of council who are dedicated, at least representing public art, and that we now have an ordinance in the making. It's fantastic, so good work.
Thank you. Gary? Lou?
I'm good. Go ahead.
I would just like to interject a little T.S. Eliot into the meeting. April is the cruelest month, breeding lilacs out of the dead land, mixing memory and desire, stirring dull roots with spring rain. And that is, I think, the essence of this moment, that what was covered in snow, dead and buried, is now being brought to life. And that happens so often with the creative arts, either in the course of making them or performing them, as you did and as I will be doing, or in just watching them and seeing them. They stir life in us.
Did you literally rehearse that, Lou? That was just great.
That was
That
beautiful,
great.
wasn't it?
And you must also know that, of course, April is National Poetry Month.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good work.
And I was delighted to attend the poetry showing, I guess it was a showing of poems, that you had at the Root Center. And that was just a delightful and a little taste of, I guess, what we're going to see a lot more of with all this funding coming out of Sacramento. And I know the fight is hard. That's a long, hard fight, and I really respect that you have been in there tenacious and really, made it happen, because a lot of people bail after a year or two, right? And you're making it happen for us, and that's really important. And to see the work that's gone on in just even this year, by the city, and with your, encouragement with the wonderful council members that we have, including Daniela, things are happening here in a very fast pace as far as it comes to the arts. And having an arts ordinance, which seems like a basic thing, is now almost a reality. So congratulations on that. Congratulations on rededicating or reauthorizing the cultural district. And just keeping it.
Redesignation, yes.
Redesignating it. And keeping it going and keeping the dream in the arts alive. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so it is, on the 19th, it's the 167th Incorporation Day of the City of Nevada City. And, that's a pretty long time we've been around. And in that honor, we're going to do a proclamation. I'm going to ask Sean and our wonderful city clerk, Neil, to share the proclamation with us and share a few words.
Perfect. So the city's officially recognized incorporation by the state of California is April 19th, 1856. In fact, we have an original copy of the signed act to incorporate the city from that date, hanging up as you walk into City Hall, right by Tanya's desk there. And that's a pretty normal thing for cities to have on their seal. You know, this is our established date, things like that. We're not a pretty normal city, though. So there's a difference between incorporation and birthday, and there's certainly a difference between which incorporation you're talking about. You know, clearly this area existed as a town and a city for some time before our, you know, what the state currently recognizes. And it existed as Ustama, the Nisenan word for Nevada City, for thousands of years before that. This proclamation is recognizing the 167 years of, let's just call it continuous, uninterrupted recognition as the city of Nevada City, even though it started out as Nevada. So I will read the proclamation, and then our own Neil Locke, our city clerk, is going to share some other history and kind of some more about the difference between birthday and incorporation, I think. Whereas for thousands of years, native indigenous people known as the Nisenan inhabited and thrived on the land now known as the city of Nevada City. And whereas a mining camp was founded along Deer Creek in 1849 during the early years of the gold rush, and by late 1850, more than 10,000 people found their way to the area surrounding what would become Nevada City. And whereas in September 1850, California became the 31st state in the United States, and in April of 1851, Nevada County was incorporated with what would become the city of Nevada City as its county seat. Whereas a first charter of the town of Nevada was offered on March 13th, 1851, but was repealed in 1852 because we went bankrupt. That's not in the proclamation. And the city of Nevada reincorporated in 1853. Although that incorporation was recorded in local history, it is not recorded as the state of California's recognized incorporation for the city. Whereas on April 19th, 1856, the Senate and Assembly of the state of California passed an act to incorporate the city of Nevada City. The name city was subsequently, or I'm sorry, the city of Nevada. The name city was subsequently added to Nevada to become the city of Nevada City as is known today. Side comment, also not in the proclamation, there were no Board of Supervisors in 1851 when the county became a county in the state. They did not seat their first supervisors until 1856. There is certainly some reference in books to the history of the timing of supervisors being placed in Nevada City and the incorporation of, you know, the date of 1856, having us already having trustees in town. Probably a little bit of tension there at the time, but I'll digress. Whereas the city of Nevada City found great success and was home of many innovations as a mining town through the beginning of World War II, when large-scale mining all but ended in the city. And whereas the growth of the city of Nevada City came with the near genocide of the Nisenan people that had inhabited the area for millennia before the gold rush, an impact that they have yet to recover from to this day. Whereas the city of Nevada City has seen many changes, including the end of the mining era, the rise of the city as a technology hub, the formation of one of California's first historic districts, and has experienced a number of threats, including the impacts of climate change and the ever-present threat of wildfire in a forested, fire-prone community. And whereas through its 167-year, let's call it uninterrupted, state-recognized incorporated history, the city of Nevada City has become known as one of California's greatest small towns. It is at the crossroads of history and progress, simultaneously preserving the appearance of its gold rush and Victorian history while pursuing meaningful growth, innovation, and expansion of services to meet the needs of a modern city. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the City Council of the City of Nevada City hereby proclaims April 19th, 2023 as the city's 167th Incorporation Day, recognizing the good and the bad that has come through the years while looking forward to the bright future ahead for those who live, work, play, and thrive in the city of Nevada City.
Beautiful.
And Mr. City Clerk.
Yes, really.
Have a seat, Neil.
Yes. Oh, I'm sorry you're injured.
First time in 86 years.
Ribs hurt.
That's a
Ribs hurt.
great statement.
I'd rather have my septum hematoma than broken rib. Gave me drugs for that one. So when I first saw this, I came a little unglued. Because in the 1980s, the same argument came up. And I wrote Gabby and then Sean. And the birthday of this town was in 1850, and was done by 200 miners that voted for the name of Nevada. And that's when you're born. That's when this town was born. The incorporation came later because you need an organizational chart to go with it, and that's how that all started. But the birthday was 1850. We'll be 175 years old in 2 years, and we should celebrate that and not the incorporation. There were 5 different incorporations. The first one was right about, it was a beautiful presentation from what I've read, except they forgot one important item, money. The cost was going to be about $1,000 a month for this town. They had $150 in the bank, so that just went under. The second one was done by a local attorney. He had a case in the local court, and they said, and he told them if they don't release him, he will go up into Sacramento and disincorporate the town, which he did. And he became the first senator of Nevada, William Stewart. And he's probably the biggest crook that ever walked the earth at that time.
At that time.
Pardon?
At that time.
At that time, yes, yeah. Well, he's kind of major. He was really a power player. So we've done that. And the town was named Nevada. The state, or the government, the federal government in 1864 added city. And there is no such thing that I have found that authorized the name of City of Nevada City. I dislike that thing. The earliest date I found was 1957, that was entered into the minute books. And I have not followed through on where it really became part of the city. But as far as I know, there's never been any authorization concerning that. So I'd like to see the city go back to the City of Nevada or Nevada City. And the police department needs to reorganize their tickets because they have one that says the city of, or it says Nevada City, and the other one is City of Nevada City. Whatever that, I blocked that out. When I wrote checks to the city, it went to Nevada City. And they never returned my checks, so, at all. So, no, I'm good. And by the way, this is not done with chat.
We know you always disclose that.
Yes.
Very nice.
I did when I was recognized by the chamber.
Yeah.
Part of it was done with chat. And the first, this isn't anything to do with this, but you were talking about Burl. The first city manager was Admiral Ray from this area. I've never met him, but I met his wife,
He was an admiral,
an admiral.
a little far from a body of water.
Not when he retired.
That's how we got Hirschman's Pond.
So I think that's about it.
Well, thank you for the context, because I
A
saw.
lot more to the story, right? But I appreciate you,
There is a lot more.
sorry, Mr. Mayor, with your indulgence, I appreciate the city clerk reaching out and trying to find a way to do the traditional recognize incorporation of a city, but in an untraditional way that also recognizes our history that is much more than just that incorporation, so.
No, the incorporation's minor. The birth is very important.
Yeah,
Any birth.
I think that, you know, I do like your sentiment, and we'll see where it goes, of celebrating the 175th anniversary of just existence.
Sean has a few too, and I admire that someone in the city, has some knowledge of the city. because
You
there's
have to
so,
pass on all that knowledge that you have, you know. You know.
that's another world.
Got plenty of time.
Got a question here. Okay.
Oh, sure.
Perhaps you could answer this. I have been unable to locate it, but it's my recollection that there was still a duel leveled against the state of Nevada to resolve the issue of who got the name of Nevada.
I've never heard that one. We've had a duel in town.
Oh, recently? Or?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, on Zion Street. It's one person doing.
No, that was in, I think, the 1860s. I could look it up again, and it was the first and last one. I
So
think one
it's,
man was killed.
It's accidental that our county looks like a derringer pointed at the state of Nevada.
Oh, no, that's not accidental.
That's how they drew us out of Yuba County and into Nevada County.
Really?
Well, in Sierra County, and they were all formed.
There was only 18 counties when California became a state, right?
But I was,
Many of them land.
it's the only county in the state that has any character to it.
But although other counties have plenty of characters in them.
Yes, so do we.
As do we in this room.
Yeah, even.
Well,
Well, thank you.
thank you. Your wonderful character and your wonderful knowledge and
Oh, thank you.
historical context is
And
always appreciated.
if you want any proof, I have.
I'd like to sit down and learn a little bit more.
This one was printed in 1856. And the history of the city is on there by Aaron Sargent. And it's a directory of the businesses and the miners in the community. This one came out in I think 45 or something like that, but it's a very good manual.
Nice.
I've never found where City Hall was located originally. The courthouse sat right here, the original courthouse, until they moved it in 1856. But I don't know where City Hall was.
We don't know where the courthouse is going either.
Yeah, we know where the new one's going.
Do we?
Sure.
I know where I think it's going. But,
Yeah.
you know, we'll talk. Thank you so much, Neil. Really appreciate it.
But I'm glad you're doing work on the old one.
Got you something. Thank you, sir.
I wish I had $100 million. We'd
200.
take care of it.
Yeah.
I don't care about them. I'm talking about when we get this one.
Oh, I see. Thanks, Neil.
Thank you.
Thanks, Neil.
All right, we're moving on to public comment. Government Code Section 5495 4.3 provides that any member of the public may address the city council on any matter not on the agenda that is within the subject matter jurisdiction of the city. The Brown Act, with limited exceptions, does not allow the council or staff to discuss issues brought forth under public comment. The council cannot take action on non-agenda items. Concern may be referred to staff or placed on a future agenda. Please note that comments from the public will also be taken on each agenda item at the time it is heard. So do we have any public comment in the room on anything not on the agenda? Okay, is there anybody, oh, Neil, come on up.
Welcome back.
I have to apologize because I did not look up any of the words that I normally do.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. And I just thought of it because I saw Andre and she said, "What's the word of the day?"
Somebody's keeping me. Well, we thought that was a good replacement for the word of the day, but we're going to expect you back next council meeting.
I know.
Okay.
As long as it keeps getting light.
Yeah, we love that. Gabby, is there anybody out there that wants to talk?
There is not. I will
Okay,
ask
great.
though.
All right, we're going to go on to the consent agenda. All items under the consent agenda are considered to be routine in nature and will be approved by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items. I'm looking for a motion and a second to approve the consent calendar.
I have one comment.
Oh, please make a
Just
comment.
one comment on, and that is on item, I believe,
8.
8, yeah, no, 7.
The
Brownfield,
brown
7.
yeah.
Yeah, the brownfield. One, again, you know, there's not a meeting I attend where something isn't getting closed out from the past, that some loose thread isn't being snagged and closed up. But I did want to comment that I really appreciated the report on the airport, the Brownfield Act. There's some real foundational work in there, getting through the phase 1 environmental that opens it up for us to eventually revisit that. But it was very well done, and I thought, I liked that it was done in collaboration with other partners. I liked that we got federal money to do it. We partnered with the Sierra Streams Institute. So all in all, it was just a really good project with some good outcomes. So I just wanted to just highlight that.
And Dawn's not here with us this evening, but I will pass that along. That is all her hard work.
Really?
It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work.
Yeah, those brownfield grants up. So we're just closing it out, right?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So I'm still looking for a motion. Oh, sorry. I didn't ask, do we have any?
Just because we talked about it.
Yeah, okay. Do we have any public comment on this item? Or anybody in cyberspace? Nope, okay. So I'm really looking for that motion
I'll
now.
move that we adopt the consent agenda as written.
I second.
All right, first by Gary, second by Adam. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Okay, moving on. So we're going on to public hearing. So, we got a nice ordinance to read here. Okay, I'm going to just settle in. All right, so this item number 10 is to conduct a public hearing in consideration of ordinance 2023-04, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Nevada City, State of California, adding Chapter 8.05, vacant building and storefront nuisances to Title 8, Health and Safety, to the City of Nevada City Municipal Code relating to vacant buildings and storefront nuisances, and consideration of Resolution 2023-14, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Nevada City, California, establishing a fee schedule for vacant building registration, processing, and vacant building monitoring. Take it away, Mr. City Manager.
All right, so when we went through strategic planning, a common weakness and also opportunity brought up by the community was vacancy in our storefronts. So, commonly people have brought up the Alpha building, but, we certainly have had a number of vacant buildings, not just during COVID, but in the long history of the city. So it was highly recognized in strategic planning. So within your adopted strategic plan under the Business Strategic Initiative, goal number 1 is to pursue a vacant storefronts mitigation program. Fundamentally, this is kind of 2 pieces. The first is the issue of blight, or the appearance that comes about from this. And the second is really the expressed desire to incentivize filling of these vacant buildings. So it wasn't just we want it to look good, it was we want it to look good during a short period of time that it's vacant, and we want somebody else to go in there, was I think a simplified version of the comment. So the business committee took this up in early January and reviewed the ordinance that you have before you tonight, ultimately on March 29th. They've recommended that the ordinance come, obviously, for your consideration tonight. It would add a chapter to our municipal code, and it establishes a process to, as it says, stop and or reverse blight caused by vacant non-residential properties. It requires these vacant building owners to register within 30 days of becoming vacant or within 10 days of us catching you. Another way to say it, 10 days after notice to do so from an enforcement official. As part of the registration, the property owner would be required to submit pictures showing how the storefront will be prepared in compliance with the law for appearance purposes. I'd really like to thank Dean's team for finding a very elegant solution to this. There's lots of places that have these vacant storefront ordinances, and they have requirements of how they can be decorated and things like that, and it's a little bit of an overreach because we don't control how you can decorate your storefront when you're in business. Having non-objective standards for how you would decorate them when they're not in business can be problematic. So instead, the process is relatively simple. They'll submit their application, and they'll include pictures of what the storefront should look like, decorated as a business or an art gallery or whatever the case may be, and that's what they'll be held to. And they'll also they'll have self-inspection requirements, and then code enforcement will conduct routine inspections, both for the blight or hazard component, but also, to maintain value for the property owners, so there's not broken windows and things like that. There is, as proposed, an initial and quarterly fee to be assessed for the applicable properties, and they'll stay on the registry until it's occupied and in compliance with the ordinance, or until they have permitted work done. They basically get a pause if they get a construction pole permit from the county or from us. The attached resolution establishing fees would be $175 for the initial registration and a quarterly fee of $225 for building monitoring, which is $400 for the initial, and then every quarter after that would be the $225. You only pay the registration fee that initial time. The business committees requested that the council consider directing me, says city manager, but that's me, to implement a development of a business incentive program that would allow the fees collected in relation to the registration and inspection to be used as future fee waiver for whatever businesses go into these occupancies. So that can take a lot of forms, but fundamentally it would create an incentive for the building owners to fill those vacancies, in that they could say, hey, if you come and filled Alpha Building, for example, and if they've paid $600 to date, that would be enough to pay for the new business's business license, sign review permit. They could use it for outdoor dining. Who knows what they would use it for? So if that's the direction of the council, then we can certainly include that in the process for next budget year. The reason for that is because the timing is first reading tonight, second reading April 26th, goes into effect May 26th, which fundamentally means with 30 days, they're in the next fiscal year, plus or minus 4 days, until they would have to register anyway. So it's good timing just to say in the new fiscal year is when we're truly going to be enforcing this. Your code enforcement officers or officer from Chief Foss's leadership have already walked through the Seven Hills and the historic downtown, cataloging buildings and opportunities to help the business owners and specifically the vacant buildings that we have. Fortunately, a number of them will soon not be vacant. Nourish will be full soon. The old brick is in escrow, or maybe out of escrow now. Across the street from them, next to Two Little Birds, is going to be filled. The old Cosmos is already in business, leaving us with a couple still left, most notably Las Catarinas down the street and the Alpha, but they're well underway with those as well. So maybe they'll fill up even before we have to get to enforcement. But with that, we'd recommend you conduct the public hearing, take any public comment. Of course, we can provide any answers to questions. Well, hopefully we can. And then you conduct the first reading of the ordinance and adopt the resolution for the fees.
Thank you. All right, first we're going to check for public comment. Is anybody in the room here would like to comment on this item? If not, we can check online and see if anybody watching at home, not even Matthew? Oh. Okay, so we'll just go right to the table, and I'm just going to go around. Adam, would you like to talk about this in any respect?
Things I like about this are beautifying the town, because the empty spots make it look like, little fragments of a ghost town, and that's not us. And also incentivizing finding tenants. If you're a property owner of a commercial space, maybe this will encourage you to maybe lower the rent to attract people who otherwise wouldn't be able to put a business in there. And that's what I like about it.
Sale price.
Or that.
That's very, I like your point. Gary?
So I had a question for Dean first. These fees are set in such a way to avoid a Prop 218 if we raise the fees, or would they be? Because I think these fees are really low for incentivizing or disincentivizing vacancy.
I agree they're low. They are matching existing fees relative to, so for example, the range of fees for, this will be filed, the application will be filed with Amy in the planning department, and her range of fees for filing something go from about $100 for a short-term rental application, which is one page with no inspection, to about $220 for something that doesn't have to go through the planning commission and things like that. So this falls within that range of what we know what the hourly cost of her work product will be. The quarterly inspections follow the same process, but with code enforcement, we could go, I would say we could go significantly higher than that. If that was the desire of council, we benchmarked it on our existing fees.
Thank you, Dean. I guess I should have asked you.
I apologize, I answered for him because when he did all the heavy lifting to, to build the ordinance, he didn't do the fees part, so that,
So, but the question, there's still some validity to that question. I mean, we can't just arbitrarily set $1,000 a month or something like that without getting into some kind of trouble, without reconciling fees with existing practices.
No, we have cities that, have various stages of fees. I wasn't involved in setting those. I do concur that a possible option is at some point. I don't think that we would trigger any concerns in terms of 218 with setting those wherever the city wants to set those. And then you also have, as Sean mentioned, the enforcement side as well in terms of violation of those. So I wasn't involved in setting those, but that you really have discretion in terms of what you want to set them at.
Thank you. Thank you. And I raise that because what I see and think a lot about is largely we have a city that runs on sales tax, property tax and sales tax. And what these buildings cost us with the vacancy is far more than the blight. Because most of these are the commercial buildings that would generate sales tax or other forms of revenue. I'm not real interested in changing it at this point. I go with the recommendations of the business committee. I am okay with, and I in fact kind of like the idea of setting these fees aside as a fee that would then be reinvested in businesses. I do like that because I don't think we could ever make enough revenue off vacancies to cover the loss of sales tax. But I think it's something that we have to really keep in mind as we look at these sorts of things is what the real cost to the city is with a vacant building. And we hear a lot about the unattractive nature, but without doing anything, there's nothing to stop people from just, if you own a building, you just pay your property taxes and insurance and that's it. And if you don't have to be a landlord, life gets a lot easier. But it's still like I've looked at, I think Las Catrinas going on 10 years, at least, that it's been sitting there, if not longer. So I'm okay with supporting this, but I want to see how it goes. I'd like to come back in a year or so and see how it's working and decide, because if we get, if 225 is not enough of an incentive to get buildings occupied, then we need to think about it. That's where I'll leave it.
Fair enough. Thank you, Gary. Lou?
Following up on Gary's question, to change the fees would just be another resolution. We wouldn't need to redo the ordinance.
Yeah, and I should have pointed out that the way this is structured, there are some cities that are attempting and putting into place vacant property registration taxes, which certainly do raise other legal issues, and Howard Jarvis is, challenging Oakland's, I think, still currently. But yes, it would, by changing those, it would be the same way that the city changes any type of its fees.
Okay. My other comments is that I'm really pleased with the process that we got to this point. Both in general, as we move through our strategic initiatives, we see one after one of those objectives actually coming to fruition. The Fire Safety Advisory Committee and the Vegetation Ordinance, the Business Committee and this ordinance, the Vibrancy Committee and the Public Art Ordinance. It's good to see that the process that we set out earlier this year is working. And I was very pleased to see the public input on this during the business committee meetings. And I've actually gotten calls from people who took their time to read the ordinance and saying, good job. They're glad to see that this is going forward.
Thank you, Lou. That was really, really insightful. Thanks. You know, I think we've been talking about the difference between what, you know, Amy's costs to do the work, right? So that's one of the thresholds is what does it staff time cost? And we figured it's about $225, but
It's invaluable.
yeah, it's valuable time. But, you know, if we're going to have these fees as a deterrent, not merely as a, you know, a cost recovery mechanism, yeah, I agree with you that, you know, $225 just to keep going, letting the, you know, the party go is, you know, I would do it if I didn't have to do anything. And the thing is, right now, we have a situation where we've let buildings like Katrina's just languish there. And so we're going to have a little bit of, you know, this, we've already heard from the business community a little bit, you know, that, you know, there's going to be a little whiplash on this. But, you know, I see this as preventing the fire on Broad Street. You know, if we had a monitoring system, you know, and we were getting paid to monitor it on a regular basis, you can't say definitely, but there's a good chance that, you know, there wouldn't be vagrants or unhoused folks in the building and causing fires. So, you know, I see that as a good reason to really make it an enforcement mechanism as opposed to just a, you know, a cost recapturing kind of mechanism. So, you know, I think, you know, I can agree with Gary that, you know, maybe not raise it at this point, but, you know, because I think this has to be eased into a little bit, since it's going to be, you know, a little bit of a shock. But there are only, did we count? There were 17 vacancies right before COVID. Do we know how many vacancies there are now?
This one is because it's specifically storefronts and commercial, you
Yeah.
know, so there was, the last count, I think, was 13.
13.
And that includes the ones I spoke about earlier that are going to be filled soon.
Okay. And then, you know, incentivizing, you know, there's enforcement and then there's incentivizing. So carrot and stick, you know, and one way or another, we got to get something done there. Now, are we, we're not forcing them to spend money to make their storefronts better? I mean, they would have to spend a little bit of money, right?
Yeah, we don't prescribe what they spend it on, but yes, they have to, you know, they can't just put up butcher paper. They have to keep the windows clean. They have to have it decorated or, you know, staged. You know, probably the easiest or cheapest is they can make it look like an art gallery or just leave it how it was. You know, if Wendy hadn't bought fur traders, they could have just left the front with it.
Still couldn't see it there.
Yes. You know, so we don't say what they do with that, but that, you know,
Well,
it would cost them some money. Probably.
We've had some art, you know, groups doing these artistic, you know, storefront things too. So there's, you know, there's a sort of art component that could maybe, if you don't want to do it, maybe talk to the, you know, this art group who will, you know, stage something that's a little bit more beautiful. Okay.
Absolutely.
All right, so unless there's any objection to this ordinance as is, I think we are going to go ahead as far as what
I move we hold the first reading, waive reading of ordinance in its entirety, read by title only, and schedule for second reading and adoption for April 26, 2023, and also adopt the resolution establishing vacant building registration and monitoring fees, but that's how I feel about it.
I second.
Bravo, that was well done. So a first by Adam, a second by Lou. Can we get a roll call, please?
Just need somebody to read the title.
Oh,
So I will read it with your permission, Mr. Mayor. It's ordinance 2023-04, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Nevada City, State of California, adding Chapter 8.05, Vacant Building and Storefront Nuisances, to Title 8, Health and Safety, to the City of Nevada City Municipal Code relating to vacant building and storefront nuisances.
thank you. Gabby?
Okay, Councilmember Cece.
Yes.
Councilmember Klein.
Yes.
Councilmember Peterson.
Yes.
Mayor Fleming.
Yes. Passes 4-0.
4-0.
All right, so next up, oh, it's Amy. Hi, okay, so item number 11 in business is consideration of adoption of Resolution 2023-13, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Nevada City, California, approving a permit for in lieu parking payments for the Three Forks outdoor dining area located at 211 Commercial Street, Nevada City. And this is going to be presented by our wonderful city planner, Amy. Hi.
$175.
What?
You just said her time is worth $175.
Oh, it is, it is.
Gary said in value.
It's in, yeah, you can't put a price.
You can't put a price on it.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
So yes, at their March 20th meeting, the Planning Commission approved a conditional use permit for Three Forks Bakery and Brewing Company for the conversion of 3 off-street parking spaces to be improved for use for outdoor dining. Like the recent Brewbilt one, which we brought to you last meeting, the commission approved a variance from the 5 off-street parking spaces required to serve that expanded business space, subject to a condition that requires that they adhere to any in-lieu parking payment program allowed under the municipal code as determined by permit resolution of the city council. Council may consider having the applicant pay the in-lieu fees or provide the required amount of parking or a combination of both. Staff has determined that the off-street parking requirements are not feasible in relation to the project as proposed, which would require an in-lieu, or which would require all 5 spaces to be re-established in the parking area. The required in-lieu payment for 5 spaces is $22,500. Staff supports a reduced parking demand calculation with incorporation of alternative parking mitigation strategies, which the property owner has already agreed to do. And those are having the property owner provide an on-premises bike rack to accommodate 5 bicycle parking spots with an electrical outlet to accommodate electrical bicycle parking. And they actually already provided the bicycle without us asking. They provided some bicycle parking some time ago, but they would provide, run an outlet out there so that electrical bicycles could plug into those. Having the property owner also provide motorcycle parking spaces to accommodate the 3 motorcycles parking spots. Based on these public benefit amenities from the property owner, the net parking demand is equal to 3 spaces, which would reduce the in-lieu payment to $13,500. Additionally, Three Forks still has a $2,000 potential business credit from the business fee waiver program, which would allow them to make the amount payable to the city reduced by $2,000, so $11,500. If they choose to use the credits for in-lieu parking fees, they can use it for a number of things. So adoption of the resolution authorizes the city manager to execute a contract with the property owner to enact that approval.
Okey doke. Do we have any public comment on this item in the room here? Would anybody like to talk on this item? Give us your thoughts. Okay, would anybody nope, okay. So I'm going to bring to the table, Lou, what would you like to tell us about this ordinance?
Yeah, since this is the second one to come up, how many parking spaces have we lost to these in lieu payments?
Well, this is the first one we've actually, we did lose 3 spaces at Brewbilt.
Yep.
And with them, they also had the expanded area, so we lost what other ways they might have provided to serve that space. And in this case, it's the same. We're losing 3 physical spaces now. Their total demand for their spot is two additional parking spaces based on the square footage, and so we're reducing a net of 5 spaces.
With these two different projects?
Yeah.
No,
No.
8 with the total.
It was 14 for Brewbilt and 5 for Three Forks.
But 6 total physical parking spaces that
Yes.
are no longer parking.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's it? Okay, Gary?
Good. I think another good solution, I would like to take the opportunity to acknowledge Commission Chair Nye and Commissioner Ermshar. Good work on this and all the good work that you do on the Planning Commission. But I think this makes a lot of sense. We're working it out. I mean, we're always going to struggle with this in the historic district. There's just no other parking places to have. So that's good work, and thank you all for.
The applicant's here.
Yeah,
You want to
it just
invite him
came
up?
in. You might want to say something.
We are discussing the Three Forks matter.
Timing is really good.
Could we get him
Yeah. Let me get
a chair, and you guys could come on up and, thank you all for helping. Amy.
a couple. Invaluable.
So we're just,
Of the business and the property.
so, wow, a double. So we're just going through the council comments, and now it's Adam's turn to comment, no pressure.
Sure, no pressure. I just want to again say that I like the bike rack option to take the sting out of losing the parking spaces a little bit and encourage people to ride into town instead of driving into town. And also, this time of year, no excuse for locals not to just walk into town if they're able. Gentlemen?
I just going to make a couple comments here, too. As far as the electric bikes, too, I mean, we do have some motorcycles, right? And you can probably see some motorcycle business there. I'd just like to have the option. I think that this is you are the first business that will have an electrical outlet for electric bikes, and that's all the rage now. And, you know, I would hope, let's say, that next year we look at this and, you know, you have more electric bikes than motorcycles, and maybe we convert that other space into more electric bikes. I don't know. I just would love that in terms of sustainability, encouraging people to come on their bikes or foot. You know, so that's more the comment about the specific business. In general, you know, I just want to understand, and we don't have to go into this too much, how we calculate the cost of a parking space.
We made, I'm not sure how we originally came up to do, but 5 spaces would equate to 5 bicycle parking spaces equated to 1 parking space. And the 3 motorcycle parking
No,
spaces.
I get it. I'm
Okay.
sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Sorry.
But in this context, I get that equation. I'm just saying in general. $4,500 for a parking space.
yes.
What is that based on? And
So that was a resolution done in, I think I did.
probably
write
voted
in
on
here?
it.
It's been a while.
Resolution. It has been a little while. I want to say it was like 2012 or 2013.
Okay.
But that was the last time we had.
Probably 30% of market.
Yeah, so, you know, I mean, and look, when you're talking $22,000 for some parking spaces, that's a lot of money, you know? So I appreciate the fact that Amy was able to work out a sort of barter situation with both organizations. Yes?
If I may interject.
Oh, of course.
It's not just that cost. I'm Gary Tintle.
Hi, Gary.
Representing the property.
I haven't met you, but I've heard of you in song and legend.
You know, it's also the cost of the land which we've purchased.
Oh, sure. It's your
So,
land.
If you add that cost to the 4,500, you may be getting to an actual cost of a parking spot, but it's probably not enough in today's market. But,
Yeah.
it's a significant cost.
Yeah.
And we're still bearing a significant cost. So.
Well, you are, and you're also providing a significant value too there. So I just hope that this is factored into our parking study that goes on, this kind of issue. Is it still going on?
Yeah, it's still going on, but I'm going to tell you that I've calculated a number of parking costs over the course of my years, and you probably want to leave it where it is.
Well, I know, that we're just saying that it's probably
telling
not
you.
higher, you know.
Triple.
Yeah, well,
Easy,
you know,
easy.
when you factor in the cost of the land.
But I'm, okay, and but I'm going to say that it's a very unique situation in historic downtown Nevada City. And calculating it doesn't work like a new development or where you're expanding something. It's a very different process and has to be dealt with uniquely.
So that's why I'm saying it should be in the parking study to factor this in and the next time this happens, just because we will probably lose some more spaces as business. Somebody, takes over Katrina's, how many spaces, da-da-da. So I think it's a great trade-off. I hope it's good for you.
I think it will be.
Yeah, and paying over time. I mean, I think it just shows that, we're working on that objective of working with businesses, helping them in the best way we can, while tightening up our ordinances and getting the city's ducks in a row. So I think it's a win all around. Gary, does this work for you as well?
Absolutely, and I think it's been a good process for all of us. It gets complicated.
It does.
Now, after all this, it's a fairly simple project.
Yeah.
Now, engineering, building permits, it reaches the point where, I really wonder.
Yeah, is it worth it?
But it's going to be a good addition.
Yeah, well, I'm glad it
the
worked
area,
out. I appreciate everybody coming to the table, working it out. Amy, Sean, you guys. That's great.
Very easy to work with. I love it.
Well, I appreciate that. That's good to hear. That's what we want to hear.
That's why she's invaluable.
No, it's priceless having.
Priceless. There you go. Well, gentlemen, ladies, thank you both. Thank you all. Sorry. Oh, yeah, we will. So who wants to make the motion? You're good at this.
I move we adopt the resolution. This
Okay.
one's shorter.
Okay.
Is that all you need from me, Dean?
The motion to adopt Resolution 2023-13, is that what you're referring
That's
to?
the one I
Councilman?
meant, yes.
Yeah, that's fine.
Thank you, Dean.
I'll second.
So we got a first by Dean and a second by, first by Adam and a second by Lou.
It was a co-creation.
Yeah. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Cece.
Yes.
Councilmember Klein.
Yes.
Councilmember Peterson.
Yes.
Mayor Fleming.
Yes,
Passes
absolutely.
4-0.
Okay, we're moving on to item 12, consideration to accept, receive, and file the audit. And there is Steve.
There he is.
Right on time. Financial statements and management report for year end June 2021. It's going to be presented by Steve Erlandson. Sorry. Never read your name. Interim Assistant City Manager. Take it away, Steve.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. So tonight before you is the completed and audited financial statements for the year ended June 30, 2022. The independent audit was provided or conducted by O'Connor and Company. Michael O'Connor, our CPA on the engagement, should be in attendance here for a PowerPoint presentation in which he'll kind of walk you through the results of the audit. And then after that, I will give you a brief presentation on major changes from prior year to current year.
Excellent.
Mr. O'Connor, would you like to take it away?
Is he supposed to be here? or-
He's there.
He is on Zoom.
Okay, I was thinking.
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, so I know there's a PowerPoint presentation. Do you want me to go off that, or would you like me to just go from the report itself?
PowerPoint. If you can, I mean, I think,
Well, I'll go through the PowerPoint presentation.
really? Is that okay? Yeah.
Do you need me to pull it up for you, Michael?
I'm assuming we went to PowerPoint.
Yeah, that would be great if you could do that, yes.
Sure. It's loading, so.
Okay.
We got really good at Zoom, and now we've lost our skill set.
It just, there
Very
we go. Ooh, all right.
Great, thank you, Stephen.
You're welcome.
So if you page down, there we go, perfect. The first thing I would like to go over is, this is page 1 of the annual financial report. Actually says page 2. It's page 1 and page 2 is our opinion on the financial statements. And this is an unmodified opinion. It's the best you can receive. We do work for the city council. Our opinion is on our letterhead. If you ever had questions of me or anyone of the firm I work for, feel free to contact us at any time, and our contact information will be on that letter. But this is an unmodified opinion, no modifications or qualifications, the best you can receive, and I just wanted to point that out here. Please feel free to interrupt me anytime with questions. All right, the next page is the statement of net position for the city as a whole. This is as of June 30, 22. And I just wanted to point out the net position at the bottom. Your governmental activities had 18 million in net position. Your business type had, looks like over $8 million, $8.5 million in net position, and then overall you have $26.5 million in net position. And net position is basically your assets less your liabilities. And that's all I wanted to point out on that page. This is your statement of activities. Both these pages are on the full accrual basis as if you were a for-profit company. I'm highlighting here the change in net position. But if you start on this page, governments are in the business of providing services. So it starts out, the first column is expenses, the cost of those services. Then it goes through your different revenue sources, charges for services, grants, operating grants, capital grants, over to what's left over that the taxpayers would subsidize. And that goes to the next section, which is basically taxes, mostly taxes. When you're changing net position for the governmental activities, they had $1.5 million positive of taking in more than they spent. Business type spent more than they took in by $274,000. Overall, it's almost a $1.3 million of revenues exceeding expenses. We can go. Thank you. Thank you, Stephen. The next is a balance sheet for your governmental activities, and it's on a modified accrual basis. It's almost like a cash basis. People like to know how much do we have in certain funds. This is also, as of June 30, 22, a snapshot at that time. And I want to point out the fund balances here. The general fund, you have $4.2 million in your fund balance. Now, and then as your Measure S project fund, which has a deficit of $205,000 or $206,000. Those two are what's called major funds, or largest funds of the city. And then you have other governmental funds, and this is a combination of a bunch of small funds. And those, you have 1.7 million in fund balance in those funds. The next is your statement of revenues, expenses, and changes in fund balance. Again, this is on a modified accrual basis, not a full accrual basis. And it's for the same funds. You had over $1 million of revenues exceeding expenditures in your general fund. That's highlighted. You have a Measure S fund. You have a loss there of almost $700,000 of expenditures. These are, capital projects exceeding revenues. And then in your other funds, you have a $422,000 positive of revenues exceeding expenditures. There's also a management report, and in the management report, it discusses, we review the city's internal controls over its assets to see if the controls are mitigate error and fraud. And in that management report, it discusses that. There's some other aspects discussed as well. There are no significant changes in accounting policies. Accounting estimates were appropriate. We did have 10 audit adjustments, corrections. We had no disagreements with management. There was no difficulties encountered during the audit. We did have 2 current year observations. One had to do with reconciling certain accounts that were not reconciled, and another one had to do with adopting a policy for capitalizing leases. This year, was a new government accounting standard for leases, and their leases are now being recorded much differently and calculated much differently. So the city has a lot of small leases, and the city is a leaseor in a lot of small leases that are month to month. And the city needs to put those in writing. And also we wanted them to adopt a policy of capitalization policy of around $35,000 to not capitalize any leases over that amount. So that will save a lot of work in capitalizing small leases. If you have any questions more on that, feel free to. I'm happy to discuss more. And then there were 2 prior observations. One had to do with the approval of cash receipts, and another one had to do with the formalizing an accounting policy manual, accounting procedure manual. And those haven't been implemented yet. And that's all I'd like to point out.
Thanks so much.
You're very welcome. My pleasure.
Really appreciate the report.
Steve will take the next part, but if you have any questions of the auditor, or if there's any public comment specific to the auditor's portion, that'd probably be appropriate.
Anybody here have any questions directly? I know I have to ask for public comment. Is there any public comment here on this matter? Okay, not seeing any. Maybe we will check online to see if anybody's out there. Nope, okay. Does anybody have any comments on this portion? I just wanted to, oh, sorry, Lou.
I just wanted to understand what the accounting procedure manual is for. How is it used? The report says we don't have one. If we did have one, when and how would it be used?
Did you hear the question?
How
Yep, okay.
How it is used is number one, for training staff. If somebody leaves, then you have, policies there for them to follow. So it's a good tool in training staff and introducing staff. But another thing is for the city council members and management. We want to make sure that you have accounting policies, you have accounting procedures, there's internal control policies. So being in a position, you want to make sure the city has those. And one way to find out is ask, do you have them, and do you have them in writing? Do you have a manual? And then they would provide that to you, and then you would know what controls the city has in place. Controls, another word for controls are boundaries. So you want to make sure that, there are boundaries or controls set up. It gives you assurance that things are being done appropriately. Nobody has full control over a situation that, people are checking, things are being checked to make sure no error or fraud, and for other purposes as well. So if somebody asks, what are your controls? What are your policies and procedures for, accounting, financial reporting? You would hand them that manual, and that would answer the question. So
Would it
right
also-
now, that doesn't exist.
Would it also be available to the public?
That would be up to you.
Thank you.
Some cities put it on their website, but that would be your choice.
Excellent, thanks so much. I had a quick question I don't want to go into too much detail, but could you just give us a little overview on the lease capitalization? I kind of didn't follow that well.
Sure, no problem. So right now, there's a new lease, GASB 87 lease accounting standard. So what happens is all leases now have to be capitalized, and an asset is recorded, and it has to be either amortized or depreciated, depending on if you're the lessor or the lessee. Now, this was something that was not required before, so it's a lot of work to do this. You also have to come up with an interest rate if the lease does not have an interest rate. It's a huge transformation. Leases are going to be written much different going forward. So what happens is the city has a lot of small leases. It would require a lot of accounting time and work in tracking all these and capitalizing them and depreciating and amortizing them. So by putting a capitalization policy, these smaller ones, you would not have to go through that process. It would save the city a lot of work to do that.
Got it, okay, that makes complete sense, okay. Thank you so much.
Sure, no problem.
All right, if we don't have any more questions, I guess we're going to go on to part 2, and that's you, Steve?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, thank you. Take it away.
Okay, let's see here. There we go. All right, so my presentation is going to be centered around the Management's Discussion and Analysis, otherwise known as the MD&A, which summarizes the financial performance highlights of the financial statements that Mr. O'Connor just went over with you. So the two presentations, and Mr. O'Connor did mention these, that I'll be covering, are the government-wide statements, which is the full accrual method of accounting, like you would have in a business, and then the fund financial statements, or the modified accrual basis of accounting, which everybody thinks of when they hear the term governmental accounting.
I don't.
So for your governmental activities net position, year over year, your total assets increased by about 5.3%, or almost 1.2 million. That's phenomenal. And again, that has to do with, cash, receivables. So you had changes in a lot of those areas. Deferred outflows increased by 40%, or about $500,000. And that generally relates to the way that pensions are now kind of classified. And so these are deferred outflows of cash that are applicable to future years. Total liabilities decreased by 33.3%, or approximately 2.1 million. And again, that relates to your pension debt also. So your pension debt in the prior year was really recorded as a long-term liability, and this year it was kind of a good portion of it was reclassified as a deferred inflow, which is why you see that humongous increase of almost 1,100%, or 2.1 million. It's the way that these items are now being classified in the balance sheet. So just a reclassification issue to keep it very high level and simple. Changes in net position. So your total expenses for your governmental activities increased by a little less than 2%. Your program revenues, which are basically your charges for services, increased year over year by about $122,000. Your general revenues, which are basically all your taxes, increased by about 8.6%, or close to $600,000. And that resulted in total revenues, so the combination, or total revenues net of expenses, increasing by $471,552, again, year over year. So your change in net position ultimately year over year is an increase of 28.7%, or approximately $350,000. Not too shabby. For your business type activities, which would be water and sewer, your total assets decreased by about 4.5%, or roughly $600,000. Deferred inflows and deferred outflows, you see the increase and decrease for both of those there, and the total liabilities. That's really the same story related to the pensions that I spoke about on the governmental activities, just a reclassification of these pension amounts. Change in net position. So again, your expenses are down 180,000. Your revenues were up by almost 70,000. So this is all year over year information. So net position, your net position is actually $110,000. So it decreased. But what I want to say there, though, is the decrease in this case is a good thing, because you were running, your expenses were exceeding your revenues. So your expenses still are doing that, but to a lot lesser degree than in the prior year. So there's been much improvement with respect to that. So I wanted to keep it kind of brief for you. I didn't want to overwhelm you with numbers, but I'm available to answer any questions and give you more detail on anything that you see or that you have an interest in. But our recommendation tonight is to receive a report from the independent auditor, which you just did, receive a report from staff, and ultimately accept, receive, and file the audit and related documents. And with that, I'll entertain any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. Is there any public comment on this item in the room? If not, is there any public comment online? Okay, I'm going to bring it back to the table. Anybody? Gary, you've
No,
chewed it.
I don't have any questions. I always tell this story, but, I'm sitting here because of the budget. when I got here, and there was a budget I couldn't understand. So 2.5 years later, sometimes, somebody that taught me a lot about budgets said that really what a budget is how you decide to count the money. It's a series of processes and funds and everything so that you figure out where the money is and how you count it. And for the first time in 2.5 years since I've elected, I feel comfortable that we know how to count the money, we know where the money is, and we know what the money is. It's an excellent audit report. I actually read the whole thing and stayed awake. But, it is well done. It was clear. I really appreciated the way you explained the inflows and outflows and the ups and downs. So we're actually in very good shape, which I've known for some time, but this is the first time I'm sitting here with a fully audited, complete budget that validates that. So thank you for that work, Steve and Sean and Mr. Auditor. So good stuff.
Excellent. Thanks. Adam? Lou?
This is our second catch-up audit, is that correct? We have another one coming up soon?
We are caught up with this audit. So
okay.
this was the year end, June 30th, 2022. So your next audit won't start until we end this budget year, June 30th, 2023.
Good to know, thanks.
This gets us right up to when you and I got in. So from here on out, it's going to be a while.
No, it's our fault.
Downhill from here, right?
So what about our pension liabilities too? I saw that, I know that there's, I don't see it, I saw it reflected deep in the report, but I know we have some unfunded pension liabilities, correct? And how are we addressing that? Everybody has these issues. It's not just us, right?
It's very small.
So how are we addressing it, or we're not? We are pay as you go for the PERS unfunded liability, which is accounted. It has a built-in escalator that we are accounting for in the budget each year as we go. Unfortunately, CalPERS performance last fiscal year was a loss, almost a double-digit loss for asset. Some practices that many people don't like, but we won't go into that tonight. But nonetheless, we anticipate while we will see an increase in that unfunded liability for that window, it's broken down into a whole bunch of segments of unfunded liability. Overall, we'll still be positioned to be able to ride that wave of our increasing payments over the repayment period. But we are not doing things like you may have seen in other cities like pension obligation bonds or things like that to, and if we would have, or if we were going to, we would have done it 2 or 3 years ago when interest rates were very low. If we did it today, we'd probably lose money because the rate of the bond would probably be higher than what we're repaying CalPERS at. Although it would be fixed, which could be beneficial.
Thank you. Steve, could you just give us a general idea of what the revenue increases were? Just, can you attribute it to, sort of specific things? We have ideas, but I know it's a general question.
Yes, absolutely. So you had, again, you had increases in charges for services. So as COVID was winding down, all the closures were winding down, things started opening up again, your park programs, your summer camps, things like that. There was quite a big uptick in revenues there related to that. Your parking citation revenues are going up. Basically, a lot of your revenue items have increased from the prior year. I think that's a function of COVID, but I also, or COVID winding down, so to speak. But I also believe that it's just the financial management of the city. I think you had your business license revenue has been increasing steadily. I think there's been better compliance with that. So I think it's a combination of a myriad of things. But again, a lot of your revenue sources across the board have increased.
Thank you, Steve. Yeah, and post-COVID, we're getting back that revenue that we weren't collecting or getting for parking and things like that. If you had to pick one you know, the weakest spot, the biggest challenge, other than the pensions, what would you say that is in this, you know, this audit?
Infrastructure.
There you go.
My opinion
Yeah,
in
I
this audit?
wanted, Gary gave me his, which I value as well.
Well, I would say probably, well, the lack, I would say the lack of financial policies, but that will be remedied as we get some new financial software in place. But I've already started working on policies. You saw the fraud policy at your last meeting. I'm already working on other policies that Michael was explaining to you a little earlier for our current situation. But once we get the new software in place, that's really going to enhance the reporting and the controls within the city's finance department. And you'll see a lot of efficiency gains there and better reporting out to the public and to the council and to the department heads also.
Excellent. So I think kudos goes to staff for starting to collect our fees in a diligent manner, figure out what our fees are, raising our fees where they need to be.
Supposed to do.
Yeah, I mean, we're back in action though, and I think that, you know, I just would like to say a lot of this has something to do with COVID, but it also has to do with the belt tightening and the, you know, the policies and procedures that Sean has instituted and with your help and with staff's help. So congratulations to everybody on that. This is, you know, it's a great audit, and, you know, I really appreciate all the work that's been put into it. So thank you.
And I believe we anticipate the majority of those policies coming before you along with your next fiscal year budget. So they will be part of the budget process and adopted and publicly available through that process as well as on our website.
Awesome. Awesome all around. I think we're just getting tighter and tighter. We're almost a real city. We are a real city. You are a real boy. Thank you so much. Unless anybody has any other questions, I think we're going to move on to our final item of the night, I believe.
I think we need to,
Oh, sorry. I always want to just move on. Yeah, we're moving on to a motion. Who's going to first? Who's going to second? Somebody?
here goes. I move we receive the report and receive and file the audit and related documents. How's that, Dean? Do I need to include the word accept? Thumbs up.
And I second that emotion.
Second. All right, we have a first and we have a first and an emotional second by Gary. Can we get a roll call, please? See, we have fun.
Yes.
Councilmember Cece.
Yes.
Councilmember Klein.
Yes.
Councilmember Peterson.
Yes.
Mayor Fleming.
Of course.
Passes
Thank you,
4-0.
Steve. And Mr. O'Connor.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Would it be all right to take a bio break? I just
Of course.
wanna
Of course, we're
inspect the
going to take a
facility.
5-minute bio break right now, where we reconvene at 8:07.
It's 8 o'clock already?
It's 8:07 and we're coming back to order. All right, after a quick intermission, we are back in action, and we're going on to our final and really kind of a cool item. I'm really excited that we're doing this, talking about it, and I appreciate
Yes, present.
the folks coming in to do it. So item number 13 is consideration of a request from the Planning Commission, which I love that it came from the Planning Commission, to initiate a dark skies ordinance. And this is going to be presented by Amy Wolfson and our Chair of the Planning Commission, Tom Nye. Welcome.
Volunteered by the commission to
You are,
fill it if you might want.
well,
That might have been my fault for saying that they could volunteer you.
take it away, Amy.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Council again. At their March 16th meeting, the Planning Commission directed staff to request that the City Council initiate the drafting of the dark sky ordinance. The following sentiments were expressed by various commissioners at that meeting. A dark sky ordinance would enhance the well-being of the community, preserve dark skies for a healthy ecosystem. They expressed the concern that light pollution disrupts sleep cycles, that there's a misconception that, that there's a misconception that brighter is safer and leads to over-illumination, which can actually be the opposite. And the example they used is like those new LED headlights on cars. When they come right at you, you actually can't see. And that it will preserve an increasingly rare aesthetic of a starry night sky. Attached to your staff reports are the International Dark Sky Association community guidelines, as well as the lighting ordinance for a city called Ridgeway, Colorado, which is a small foothill town, sort of similar to Nevada City, even smaller. But they've achieved International Dark Sky certification with some amendments they made to their lighting ordinance in 2020. At the March 29th Business Strategic Initiative Committee meeting, the committee reviewed a recommendation related to the holiday lighting, which is the perimeter lighting around downtown. The committee recommended that, 1, the item be included in the dark skies ordinance development process, and 2, that the city look to conduct surveys beyond the business owners on the topic prior to the item being considered by the Planning Commission. And with that, I do have Chair Nye here. We also have Commissioner Ermshar. If you have any questions for them about why they would like to see this ordinance initiated.
Oh, we will. Is there any public comment? Andre, I'm looking at you. If not, nobody in cyberspace. Okay, so we'll bring it to the table. Lou?
I'd like to hear from.
Oh, sorry. You're going to present? Or you're,
Yeah, I have some.
Oh, I'm
some
sorry. I
things to
apologize.
maybe
Oh.
add.
Oh, God. Sorry.
From my perspective, with the Planning Commission, there is language existing that describes what sort of lighting is allowable in various places in our municipal code. But it's sometimes hard to determine by looking at a fixture what its light spread characteristics are. The color temperature isn't always named, and sometimes they're not specified on plans. And if we were to enact a dark sky ordinance, we could specify dark sky compliant fixtures, which essentially it makes it really easy to choose the right fixture so that neighbors aren't disturbed. The language we have in place does protect neighbors from overly lit adjacent properties, and also business lighting does that. But it's kind of a tangle. So if we were to require dark skies compliant light fixtures, it would really simplify the process. And on a recent application, that was the solution to parking lot lighting. The applicant just selected a dark sky compliant fixture, and that solved it. Some of the things that are in there technically is color temperature, which is in the case of, well, all lighting, but it can be specified in LEDs. Color temperature is expressed in Kelvin and describes a warmer to cooler light color. 3000 K is the dark skies color temperature maximum. The higher the number, the cooler the light. The lower the number, the warmer the light. So 3000 K is close to warmer light. I personally prefer 2700 for interior lighting. It's nice and pleasant. There's also cutoff. Cutoff is a term that's used that I could go on.
Mr. Chair, sorry to interrupt you, but an example of just under 3,000 is our can lights, and our fluorescents are close to 4,000.
Yeah.
Big difference, right?
Which do we like better?
So, thank you.
Well, that's also LED versus, were they both LED?
LED comes in those colors.
Kelvins now.
Yeah, you can specify color temperature in LEDs,
Yes.
and like halogens are about 2700 K.
Okay.
Which is very pleasant and incandescent, but not very efficient.
These are horrible.
Yeah. So would that apply in here? No, I know it's outside, but no, anyway. We could make,
So with a dark sky ordinance, all lighting, including city-owned lighting, that's something that's part of the Ridgeway ordinance. It's actually required by the International Dark Sky Association to be certified as a dark sky place. But all city-owned lighting needs to phase into compliant lighting and color temperature. And there's a, there's a reasonable phase-in process in that ordinance, but we'd have to work on it.
I think most of them say 10 years. That one didn't have a year limit. I don't think Ridgeway's had a year limit. They just said,
Takes time.
as lighting fails, you got to replace it.
as your bulbs go out, you gotta replace them with, just like that, yeah.
Right. Another benefit, let's see, so a dark sky compliant, dark sky ordinance would standardize lighting fixtures. And of course, we would begin to restore the visibility of the nighttime sky magic. Saves energy by not overlighting. Warmer light is less disturbing to birds and other wildlife, as Amy said. And it hasn't been shown that crime increases in dark sky cities. You think that an overly lit place would deter crime, you bring down the light level, crime doesn't increase.
Interesting.
It hasn't been proven to increase. Pittsburgh has a dark sky ordinance, and their crime rate hasn't increased since they became a dark sky
Did they get
city.
international compliance?
Pennsylvania. I looked up Pittsburgh, California. That one.
Oh, Pittsburgh, California, yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
not Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
No, they're definitely,
Pennsylvania.
Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Yeah.
oh,
And did
really?
they get certification?
Yeah, the big
They
city.
did, yeah.
Yes.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
pretty,
That's a huge effort. That's
industrial steel
enormous.
city like Pittsburgh, wow.
Right. And Sean pointed out that it's probably not growing exponentially.
Not anymore.
Got one light bulb.
Good track.
Local astronomers are in support.
Local,
And also, by unifying color temperature, the city would have a more unified look. It's a subtle change, but we have very bright blue light. We have, all kinds of different
yeah.
color temperatures. And it would look more historic at night, actually, if we had a unified light color
That's-
temperature.
that's a big selling point, more historic.
Yeah, I could go on and on, but do you need any more information?
No.
I had, what did I have? I had it attracts tourists who come to visit the night sky. I did the pros and cons, and so it attracts tourists who like the night sky, and they're gonna come here from all over to see our sky. Okay, so we'll go through the normal procedure. So is that your presentation? I didn't mean to.
I think that pretty much sums it up.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
That was good. All right, so no comments, table, Gary.
Thank you, thank you. No, it's a really good idea. I want to acknowledge Dan Reinhardt, who was the stonemason, who was one of the first people to bring this to my attention when we were discussing tennis court lights and the importance of what had been in the past discussions in the city about a dark sky ordinance, but hadn't been implemented. Coincidentally, I'm visiting the largest dark sky preserve in the Northern Hemisphere in June in the prairies of Saskatchewan. So,
Oh, wow.
they got a really big sky there with no lights. It's amazing. And also for domestic peace in my house, I could never vote against this. I'm a big fan of dark skies in my wife.
So you're being influenced.
Who I am being influenced, who is watching this meeting, I think, because she texted me before and said, "Are you talking about the maintenance of those empty buildings as well?" So, at any rate, I think it's a great idea. It fits our community perfectly. We're the right size to do it. It will take time. People need to understand that it will take time to implement it over a period of time as we enforce the ordinance, as you know, fixtures wear out and they get replaced. But we can get there. And I do think that the Colorado ordinance, I read that, I think it's about 90% there, I think. You guys are better at that than I am. So, but thank you for your work on this, and thank you, planning commissioners, again, for your diligence on this and initiation of this, I think. So, yeah, good stuff.
I'd like to throw in another comment, if I may.
You may.
I've noticed just in my neighborhood alone, new brighter porch lights that I have not seen before in the last 10 years that shine into my windows. And there's a tendency of us humans, I guess, to increase, do more and more, to have to make us feel like we're accomplishing something. And that I think that might apply to porch lighting, at least in my neighborhood. And there's a time window, I think, that we should act before we lose a resource that's not common in cities.
Thank you, Tom.
Yeah, I've got friends who were just visiting who've lived all their lives in big cities, and they can't believe how beautiful our night sky is, and this sounds like it would just make it more so. How would we communicate to our people that about this change? What would we need if they'd come to us asking what they would have to do differently? How would we communicate that to them?
Just let PG&E run our power.
I imagine we would probably have a series of workshops to just engage the community on the process and, it would be very well known before we just actually have an ordinance before you guys.
Put something in the newsletter, those kinds of things. And the downtown lighting that we were discussing at the business meeting.
Yes.
Is that still a doable thing? It would just matter what kind of bulbs we were using, that sort of thing?
So Ridgeway does have holiday lighting provision in their ordinance, and it's a period of time. So they do allow some holiday lighting for a period. I think there's also some language in there about making sure lighting is turned off, an hour or so after sunset or something along those lines. So it's still doable, I think, even with the lighting as it is presently, but with some parameters.
I know so would we be putting stuff on timers or something? Because a lot of the business people are home by then, and instead of manually setting the lights,
Yeah, it would be something that whoever owns the lighting or whoever's managing that lighting system, and I think it's really the Chamber of Commerce, would have to help figure out how that works. So,
okay.
But yeah, there would be a phasing in timeline too.
Right. Thanks.
Timers are strongly suggested by the International Dark Sky Association for certification. It's a goal.
Excellent.
$20, really good ones, you can control it.
Would you like to?
Sure. I'd like to speak to that last paragraph where the Business Initiative Committee asked you to take on this additional burden of the holiday lighting. First of all, do you think that's possible within this dark sky ordinance, that you'd be able to solve that problem as well?
There is provision in at least the Ridgeway's ordinance, and they achieved a certification for holiday lighting. And the caveat is, though, that it's on for a certain amount of time and then turned off the rest of the year.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to emphasize. When we passed the resolution for holiday lighting, there was a considerable amount of community input, plus the council then voted. So how are we going to gather community input on that aspect of this proposed ordinance?
Regarding the holiday lighting?
Yes.
I think there would be a couple of things, and that would be one thing that we'd have to specifically highlight and engage the public on. And that would definitely be something that I think we'll get a range of opinions about that.
We definitely will. And last sort of aggressive question is adding that piece of information about holiday lighting into a dark sky ordinance make it harder for people to comply because it's one more place that they have to look to find out what the regulations are on lighting?
Personally, I found the Ridgeways ordinance was pretty easy to read. I looked at others too, and they were a lot less easy. So I think this one is manageable for people, but also, I mean, if anyone has a question about it, staff should be able to help answer it.
Yeah, good. I felt the same way about reading the Ridgeway ordinance. I went, wow, this is clear for a law? My goodness. Easily understood.
It would also be good to not replace or obliterate what we have in terms of lighting regulations pertaining to historic stuff.
Right.
We need to work what we have in and not weaken things.
Exactly. Rather than, nothing is harder to enforce than an ordinance that has lapsed, as we discovered with the business licenses. So we don't want to have those standards that were set in the resolution that established the holiday lighting. We don't want those standards to go away. Perhaps they reinterpreted, broadened, made automatic with those switches. That would be very helpful. But I, like Adam, have had people come up and comment, wow, they can stand on my back porch, look up and see the Milky Way, which is, for some people from the Bay Area, they haven't seen in decades. And it's a delight for me. Every night in summer, I go out, that's the last thing I do before I go to bed. Go out on my porch, look up and say, oh, there's Pisces, there's the Milky Way, there's Delphinus, I can see them. And those are fairly dim constellations. And I want to make sure that we continue to do that as we move forward.
Just regarding the holiday lighting, I guess we're calling it downtown. Stuart Baker, the CEO of the Chamber expressed support generally for a dark sky ordinance.
Good. It would be a tourist attraction. You can't get that in many areas, many of the larger cities in this state.
Thank you, Lou. Great questions. Yeah, so just because we're talking about the holiday lighting, which is not really the subject, well, it is the subject here.
Part of it.
It is part of it.
Interpolated
So
subject.
I don't know when we voted on the holiday lighting, but there was no time frame put in, and that's the issue, right? That it stays up year round?
No, there was.
November 15th to January 15th.
There is.
Okay.
Limited to 2 months.
Just not enforced.
It's just still, okay, so that's my second question. How are we going to enforce the dark sky ordinance? I think it's, first of all, I'm all in favor of it. I love getting certified for things, so I would try to go for the certification, just the A-type personality that I am. But is that something that you're saying that that's a goal for us, is to get certification, correct?
Yes.
Okay, over time.
Yes.
Okay. And then, one of the things, I'm just playing devil's advocate as we are trained to do, cost. So are these, night sky, compliant lighting, is that significantly more expensive, a little bit, or about the same?
I haven't looked into it. I don't remember in that one example where Sightline, the parking lot, they didn't name cost as a problem for them. So for the fixture.
There are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of lighting fixtures that are dark skies compliant available at Home Depot and.
So it's just the same lights? It's the same
Yeah,
standard lights,
it
so
just
it's
has
not?
to do with formatting.
Okay.
And also, I'll mention that traditional, very historic-y looking light fixtures, the porch lights that hang that have bulbs that you can see, the light emission from them could be controlled to be within a certain amount of lumens, so that they're decorative but not invasive. So we can keep that look. That can stay as long as it remains within.
So the fixtures will be, historic or whatever context they need to be. It's just the bulb itself, right?
Right, and so some historic homes have those and they look great. They're perfect and aesthetically. and they can also comply. They're not shielded light sources, but if they're not too bright, they will work with the dark sky.
Was that clear?
A little bit.
Yeah, I feel like we're in the middle of a conversation that we've had a little bit, previously. So there's two ways to be compliant with a fixture, say on a home. One would be that it, and correct me if I'm wrong, Thomas, but like the direction that the light is cast or how it's shielded would be one way. Another would be if it is not directed, if it's transparent and clear, a different level of lumens could be, like the light bulb could be changed. Right, is that correct, Thomas?
Yes,
So there's two ways. It could be
Shielding.
a different fixture, it could be a different light bulb.
Got it. Thank you for the clarification. I'm just wondering, since obviously we have a problem enforcing our holiday lights, I mean, it's aspirational. I think it's a great idea. The practical application of it, are we having code enforcement I guess you would just have to check the lumens coming out of it and the way the bulb is rated.
I think
For most, sorry, for most places that have gone through this endeavor, it is really not about the enforcement aspect, because the biggest bang for your buck is in the education and building, community grassroots desire to do this. And there is certainly enforcement as people pull permits and, do new construction or, come through planning for architectural review on an existing structure. There'll be an enforcement component there, but you're going to achieve a lot of your compliance voluntarily in the initial rollout because people are excited for the opportunity.
Sure.
That's what other cities have experienced.
The main vehicle for that is Adam Klein's Instagram.
And his stand-up, and his burgeoning stand-up comedy career. How many people you could do a light bulb. How many people does it take to screw in a nice compliant?
I don't know, that seems like too edgy a joke.
All right, we're digressing here, but I think this is wonderful. I really appreciate you guys bringing it to the table. It's following something that Dan Reinhardt had also opined on, and we're abusing him with light, regularly. So.
You are.
I mean, you could be assaulted. It's assault, right? It's a touching, it's an apprehensive. Anyway, all right. So I thank you both, and also, thank you.
I do have a comment that might, regarding enforcement, just to your question. I also think that if we are very clear about what sort of light fixtures are good and compliant, it'll be easier for people to choose the right ones. It'll be easy when they replace them. They've heard the words. They see the words on the box.
Oh, yeah.
They just get that. They get that. It's you don't have to count lumens or anything. It's easier, I think, to comply.
I think there'll be a lot of compliance too. You'll have people who always, I don't see us doing anything, but, if you're the one, house on the block that stands out with a really bright light, maybe, you might think
I'll
about
be
it.
knocking on your door.
Tom will knock on your door? Okay, I don't know about that. So that's great. Yeah, I'm not asking for enforcement. I just want to see us actually get the certification and have the effect and the net positive of what this will do. And I think that's it. So when they come to the planning commission, there will be a list of lighting, fixtures that they can choose from, right? So it'll be easy, so.
So if the applicants present a plan that has these fixtures, we see the specs, dark skies compliant, done.
And do we get a nice little certification thing that we can hang? And we could use it for marketing purposes, it's a great thing to brand the city with that too. So thank you. I think that's it for the table. I'm looking for a motion, and then we're going to vote, apparently.
Let's see, I don't, okay.
Perhaps the ordinance.
Yeah, I'm looking for it, but
You move we approve the request directing the city
I move that we approve the request to direct the city manager.
to add the ordinance development to the process of the plan in 2023.
Well, you want to go ahead and do this?
It's ridiculous.
So I recommend that we approve the request directing the city manager to add the ordinance development to the process of the planning commission in 2023.
Well said.
Thank you. I just had to find
Would you
it.
second that, maybe?
I second that.
Oh, we got a first by Gary and with an assist by Adam.
First ghost-written motion I've seen, but that's,
It was voiced.
It's
a
the
ventriloquist.
resolution whisperer.
There we go. All right, can we get a roll? He's already out the door, so. You missed
Councilmember
us, didn't you?
Cece?
Yes.
Councilmember Klein?
Yes.
Councilmember Peterson?
Yes.
Mayor Fleming?
Yes.
Passes 4-0.
Did you say Lou?
Yeah.
Okay, okay. Oh, yeah, it passes. Oh, there we go. Yay. All right. Thank you all.
Yes, thanks for staying through the whole meeting.
Okay, so now we're going to go to council member committee reports and other interesting.
City manager report would be.
Well, he's going to come last, I think, if you don't mind.
whatever you like.
Wow.
Sorry.
He never does it the same way twice.
Fresh.
Does it, you got to keep you guys guessing, so. Does it, Adam, do you have anything?
Yeah, is it June 2nd or June 3rd? We've got the.
It is June 3rd.
June
Saturday,
3rd.
June 3rd.
Saturday, June 3rd, we're doing another green waste event. In addition, there will be e-waste and I believe just general household waste as well.
Bulky items.
Bulky items.
Is this the Adam Klein show?
At the Root Center. I don't think it is entirely me. We have waste management staff will be there as well.
Yes, this
But-
is the one they staff.
But planning commissioners, I will probably be asking for your help again because you did such a.
It was.
Still,
It was. I still have gloves for you, actually.
Next time we get stand-up.
Do a little open
so
mic.
that's June 3rd. Chief, could you text me the link to the Survey Monkey naming of the dog?
Will do, I'll send it to everybody.
I'll put that up on my social media so that Wendy sees it.
2 million followers.
Wow, that's all that comes to mind right now. Let's see what Gary has to say.
Thank you.
That work for
I'm
you?
going to drink water while he talks. You've never seen anything like this.
Oh, man,
I'll tell you, that's your future.
Yeah, I'm telling you.
Stand up.
Yeah, so I did also want to mention April 15th, this coming Saturday at the Root Center, is lithium battery collection possibility. So those of you with power tools and with dead lithium batteries, it's they get recycled, which is a hard thing to do. So that'll be at the Root Center this Saturday. I attend my first, let's see, when is that? Next week, my first community aggregate power, Pioneer Power board meeting. So we're going to be in on that. So getting sworn in this week and all that. So I think that's all I got.
I attended the quarterly wildfire stakeholders meeting on the 31st, where they presented us with a wonderful workshop on how to identify what kind of community you're in and what sort of barriers there might be to communicating with that community what the wildfire safety procedures are. I also presented a brief summary of the process we went through to get our vegetation ordinance passed, and they seemed very appreciative and receptive to that. Other than that, I would be happy to announce that the rehearsals for Guys and Dolls are underway. It's going to be a great show, despite me being in it.
Well, attendance is mandatory for council members. I'm just telling you. That's great. Thank you, Lou. I just wanted to ask, Adam, you've been wonderful attending the NCERC, the Economic Resource Council meetings. Isn't there
The tours
tours
coming up, yeah.
We should talk about that, maybe.
We should. I wish I had the day in my head.
It's the 27th.
You have the day in your head.
Yeah,
I'll borrow
I
it.
just remember that, too. I just wanted to let the public know out there that, well,
Just announce it.
yeah. Well, no, but I didn't
Yeah,
want to know if anything happened.
I'm going, you're going?
Yeah, I guess so.
I'm going.
Yeah, get on the
Look
bus.
at that.
If anybody wants to go, you got to get your spots, though, because I think they do fill up.
Yeah.
And I haven't officially reserved mine, so I hope they're still left. That should be good, because they're actually, and thank you, Adam, if you helped do this, but there wasn't a stop in Nevada City on the tour until recently, so I'm going to just credit you with
Yeah, I had nothing to do with it. I'm happy to take all
You
the
should
credit.
just not said anything, because you did.
We're doing a cannabis lab, right?
Yeah, we're going to Cannabis Lab. I was hoping to go to the tech center, but there's not really anything for them to see yet. there, so next year, the tech center will be there. So a couple of things. So I've been talking with the Roman Angels about their car show, and there is a lot of energy for them wanting to do the car show at the tech center. They're an older group, and they have about 300 classic cars. They have a connection with Classic Cars West, which is now at the tech center. And so there's a sort of meeting of the groups. And, I'm going to ask the city manager to look into what we need to do to get them compliant with, and the chief as well, as far as, traffic and parking and fire lanes and things like that. They're pretty on top of it, but I think it would be a great opportunity for the city to, drive some revenue, have some energy down at the tech center, which I love, and just have a cool car show down there. We'll try to get the kids involved from the school. We'll try to talk to the chamber about, doing some business stuff too. So I just would hope that you guys support it, and if you have any problems, please let me know. One of you can let me know. So if one of you has a problem, just let me know, or have questions. They're going to come here and present. To which meeting would we get them on the agenda for, if we did?
If they have a special event permit application, we can usually turn that around pretty quickly.
Okay.
So the 26th was the next council meeting, so
Okay.
the
I'll get them on it.
Friday before we'd post the agenda, so at least the Thursday before.
Okay, I'll get it.
Do you have a date on this or anything?
They do have a date. It's in October. And, it was a heavy lift for them to do it at the fairground. They charged a lot of money. They're only going to do one day here, and it's a perfect venue because there's a gate. And anyway, so it would be a real positive thing, and I think there might be some other car activities that are going to be envisioned in the future. So I just hope we can welcome them and give them the good old Nevada City. We stole you from the fairgrounds. Welcome. I said that in public, didn't I? All right. All right. And then what else is going on? Like you all, I'm getting a lot of complaints about waste management. And I really am big fans of Shavati and Larry. They care about the community. I know that. This is a corporate problem in some cases, but yet again, my street was strewn with trash from all the bears. They knocked down 5 trash cans of elderly people on my street. And Marley and I have to clean up all this trash all the time. And they can't bring them in and out, and they say they're gonna come and they don't. So I'd like us, and they're trying, and they got some corporate issues, but the fact of the matter is our citizens are really not getting the best services that they can, and they're frustrated, and they're mad.
We have recourse.
And I'm going to, Sean and I had chatted about it recently, but I'd like both our city attorney and our city manager to look in what options we have with the contract, what options we have with alternative service, if that's even a feasible reality, I'm sure we could bring it in-house if we felt like bringing that on. You know about this stuff,
And-
Gary.
The solid and hazardous waste meeting is tomorrow, right? We can raise the issue then.
Yeah.
Well, if you guys could find out what's going on and
Solid
just.
waste?
Oh, we have a solid waste committee?
It's the county. We're on the county commission.
Yeah, okay. Because I don't know when my trash gets picked up anymore. I
I
gotta tell
don't.
you that I just like, I don't understand it anymore. And then the notifications that I get that they tell me they changed it come the day after that, so it's a
We've
mess.
got real communication problems.
Yeah,
Yes.
they really do.
Yeah, and they tell you things, and then they promise it, and it's not going to happen. Some people are really, really upset with them, and I hope that they can do better. But, I just got the same sort of platitude letter again that, it's, force majeure. Because of the snow, we don't have to enforce our contract. We don't have to abide by our contract because there's snow on the ground, and it's, act of nature, which is obviously in their contract. But, please, tell us, there's no snow on the ground right now, and they're still having problems, They're dropping oil on the roads, ruining people's roads. It's a big problem. And so I just hope we can look into some solutions and work with them to do better. So I'd appreciate if you guys looked into that as well. And I think that's all for, one of the things is, I'm meeting with, with what's going on over at the Tech Center, I'm going to meet with Robert Upton tomorrow, just to talk to him about his project over there. He's got that housing project that's been entitled and languishing, I guess. And to just talk about a little bit of the stuff that's going on over there, so I'll report back on that. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to the city manager for his wonderful report.
Awesome. Well, I took a lot of notes. Thank you. The flags will go to half-staff in the morning when the sun comes up, based on your direction, honoring Burl Robinson. Thank you for mentioning the green waste cleanup here in Nevada City. We also posted on our social media and our website today the Fire Safe Council's green waste cleanup days. They have multiple through April through June. So if ours doesn't happen to be convenient, hopefully there'll be something else for folks. That really is everything that came down during the storms is going to be fuel for fire in the summer. If you want to learn more about that, come see us Thursday at 6 o'clock for Councilmember Klein and CC's Fire Safety Advisory Committee, where we'll be talking about how we share the information about our new ordinance with the community and how we're going to start doing inspections. The day before that, you can come see Councilmember CC and Councilmember Peterson for our infrastructure committee, where we'll talk about the exciting topic of capital improvement program. But that's actually a really big milestone for the city to jump into the 21st century, maybe the 20th century, as it were.
Close enough.
Lots of things going on. Thank you to the council members for attending all of these meetings for free, as it were. Something else maybe we can address in future budgets. We believe we'll have some very good news about grants by the time we get to our budget workshop, which will be May 3rd. Maybe a $3 million grant coming our way. And we, of course, encourage the community to come out for that budget workshop. So set your calendars now. I'm talking to you, Stuart Baker, who's watching at home. And that is all I have for you this evening, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager. All right, as we adjourn, I want to remind everybody that this evening we're adjourning in memory of Burl Robinson. So I'm looking for a motion and a second to adjourn in his memory. And a motion from council member.
I so move.
I move that, I second that we adjourn the meeting in the memory of Burl Robinson, former city manager.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Thank you, council, for a really good meeting. I mean, there's some great input tonight. Lou and Adam, I'm looking at you both. And Gary, you always have good input, so I'm not going to single you out.
Dean's so out of here.
Until we start again.